Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Melissa. I'm a registered nurse. I work in critical care, and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys exactly how much my tuition was for nursing school, how much I paid out of pocket, how much I had to take out in student loans, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you guys exactly how much I have to pay back in student loans per month. So if you're interested in learning pretty much all of my business, then keep watching this video. So I want to start off this video by saying that I am going to go ahead and put chapters down below. So if there's any portion of the video that you want to skip ahead to, or if there's a portion of the video you want to skip over, it just makes it that much easier to do. You guys are so sweet, and I love how comfortable you are talking to me and messaging me. But sometimes I get comments from people saying that I talk too much. I feel like y'all are getting a little bit too comfortable. So I know that I talk a lot. So in order to make things easier for you, if you are only interested in the money portion of this video, I'm gonna go ahead and put that down below so you can skip over me chatting. So for those of you guys that have not seen my previous videos, nursing was a second career for me, or nursing is a second career for me. I decided to go back to school for nursing after I was already working full time. I already had a career. I decided to go back to school, get a nursing degree. And for me, I was at a point in life where I had other responsibilities. By that point, I was married. I already owned my home. I had bills to pay. And so going back to school is extremely expensive. And so I knew that I would have to take out loans. I knew that I'd have to pay out of pocket. And so I was doing a lot of research to see exactly what that would look like once I graduated, to see what my repayment would be and stuff like that. So I thought that it'd be helpful, hopefully, if you're watching this video, to have somebody maybe extremely transparent about how much I have to pay back, how much my tuition was, and all of that stuff. So that if you are on the fence about whether or not to go back to school, if you're on the fence about whether or not to pursue nursing and you don't know how you're going to afford it, hopefully this video can just give you more information and help you make a more informed decision. So right before I get into the numbers, I will get into the numbers in just a moment. I do really quickly want to go over my background and my personal financial situation, because I want this video to be extremely transparent. I don't want you to be watching this video in one situation and then you watch my video and make decisions based off of that without knowing my financial background. Because I feel like some people get online and they talk about how they bought their first home or they went to school, and then they have the bank of mom and dad behind them. So I want to be very honest about my personal situation, and I wrote notes so that I wouldn't forget. So first things first, nursing was my third degree. I had two previous degrees. I have a bachelor's degree in communications and marketing. I got a master's degree in healthcare administration, and then I decided to go back to school a third time and get a bachelor's degree in nursing. So I had no previous student loan debt. I had no student loan debt from my other degrees. I was very, very blessed. My parents paid for my first degree for me. Right after high school, I went straight to undergrad. I lived on campus. I did the whole college experience, and I'm very fortunate that my parents paid for that out of pocket for me. For my master's degree, I worked full-time while I got my master's, and I paid for that. I was also on a scholarship, so that helped the cost. But either way, I did not have to take out any student loans. So by the time that I went for my nursing degree, it was my first time applying for student loans. I know that can make a difference, because I think there's only so much you can qualify for, so much you can take out, I think. And so if I had previous student loan debt, I think that would have affected me for my nursing degree, but I did not. Okay, so the second thing, I'm married, and my husband had no student loan debt. So neither one of us, my household did not have student loan debt. Neither one of us had debt at all. We own a home, so we have our mortgage. If you consider that a debt, I don't really consider that a debt, but I mean, it does affect your debt to income ratio. So we have monthly bills. At the time that I started nursing school, we had a mortgage, but neither one of us had real debt. DINK, I wrote the word DINKs, dual income, no kids. So I worked full-time throughout nursing school. I worked full-time before nursing school. My husband also worked full-time. So my household, it's just the two of us. Our household, we both worked full-time. We both were making salaries, and we don't have any kids. We didn't have any kids. So it's not like we had to pay for childcare. We didn't have any large monthly expenses other than our mortgage and then our monthly bills. I already bought my house because I know that loans can affect you if you want to buy a house later on down the road. I do think that that's something to consider if you want to become a homeowner. If you don't have any significant debt, my advice would be to invest in a house. I mean, everyone's situation is different. For me, I invested in a home first. The bank looked at our debt to income ratio, and I think it helped us a lot because we had significantly higher income than we did have any debt. We really didn't have any debt when we bought our home, so it allowed us to qualify for more house. Another thing about my situation, my tuition was significantly less. I'm about to go into that next when I talk about how much nursing school cost. I went to Chamberlain University. It is a private university. Chamberlain's tuition every year is anywhere between $90,000. Not per year, for the entire program. Chamberlain University's nursing program is a 3-year program. If you do the entire program at Chamberlain, I'll talk about that in the next portion. But the entire program is between $90,000 to $95,000, at least at the time that I started. Every year I think tuition goes up. But I transferred in with a bunch of credits because I had 2 previous degrees. Some of my gen eds transferred into my nursing program. And then before I started nursing school, I went to night school. I went to community college in the evenings, and I knocked out some of my science prerequisites. So like biology, one of the anatomy and physiologies, chemistry. So some sciences I took at community college for a fraction of the cost. So by the time that I entered into Chamberlain, I did not pay for the full program. So my tuition was not $90,000. So that also helped me a lot. And then the last thing that I wrote, private versus public loans. So I'm gonna get into that, but I only have I only have federal loans. So I do not have any private loans. I only have public loans or federal loans. And so I'm going to get into that later in this video. So that is all my personal situation. So if you're watching this video, if you have debt from something else, if you have previous student loan debt, if you have children, if you're like a single parent, or if you only have one person bringing in income, your situation's a bit different than mine. So that is everything about my situation. The biggest things were that I went into my nursing program not having any previous debt. And I have a dual income household, and we don't have any kids that we have to spend money on. So I was able to pay a lot out of pocket because I did not have all of those other financial obligations that I know a lot of you guys watching my videos do have. Okay, so I have my laptop right here. So now I'm going to screen record, and I'm going to log into Chamberlain's website in my account because I still have access to it. I'm going to show you guys exactly how much I had to pay for the entire program for Chamberlain. This page shows absolutely everything that I paid for during my entire time at Chamberlain. So we're just going to go down the list since it's itemized. So I ended up spending $1,076.22 on books and supplies. So when I was at Chamberlain, I invested in a tablet. I got a tablet, I got an iPad, and all of my books were electronic. So my iPad was my textbook. I didn't get physical textbooks, and the electronic textbooks were like close to half the price of the actual physical textbook. So most of this was for my textbook. I would invest in the textbook for pretty much every class at Chamberlain. And then I had to pay for my uniform for clinicals. I paid for a stethoscope. I paid for my lab bag, like my skills bag for when we did health assessment lab. So all of that was books and supplies. So the application fee That goes all the way back to before I started the program when I applied to Chamberlain. At the time, the fee just to apply was $95. Once you paid for the application, once you got accepted at Chamberlain, you had to get fingerprinted, you had to have a background check, you had to get drug tested because we were working or doing clinicals in the hospital. So they had to make sure that we were, we didn't have a criminal background and that we did not have a history of drug usage. So all of that was $200. This is the BSN NCLEX prep fee. So once I got to the final semester at Chamberlain, I believe, we had to pay an NCLEX prep fee. So it was mandatory, it wasn't optional. We had some NCLEX review days. I think we had 2 or 3 days, full days on campus where we had mandatory NCLEX reviews. So this fee was mandatory. Everyone had to pay it, and at the time it was $350. Proficiency test fee, I don't remember what that was. I think it may have been my HESI entrance exam because I think I did take it through Chamberlain. So I think this was pretty much my entrance test. I paid $60 for that. Student activity fee, they had activities on campus that I never got to go to because they only had activities during the day and I was a nighttime and weekend student. But even though I wasn't able to attend them, but we still all had to pay an activities fee. Student service charge, every semester they charged us for student services. So I'm assuming like cleaning the facility, like cleaning the building, I don't really know what this was for. I'm assuming it was just like maybe the rent for the building, all of that stuff. But over the course of 3 years, it added up to $3,400. Credit issued, I don't really know what that is. Voided credit issued. So I guess they gave me credit certain semesters and I didn't use all of it, so they repaid me that. Okay, so this is the big thing. So my tuition at Chamberlain, like I said, at least when I attended Chamberlain, it's probably around the same cost right now, but when I attended Chamberlain, tuition for the entire program was between $90,000 to $95,000. And I always say that because I transferred in with a bunch of credits, I did not have to pay that entire tuition. My tuition was discounted. And I think I've always said my tuition was somewhere around $60,000. So this clears it up. My tuition at Chamberlain, because I transferred in with a bunch of credits, was $63,162. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out my calculator. And we'll do $95,000 because different campuses have different costs. So Chamberlain has campuses all throughout the nation. Certain campuses, the tuition was $90,000. Certain campuses, the tuition was $95,000. I think for my campus, the tuition was $90,000. But once you add up all of these fees and once you add taxes, it probably equated to closer to $95,000, maybe a little bit more. So I'm gonna do $95,000 minus my tuition, which was $63,162. Let's get on my calculator. So because I transferred in with a bunch of credits, I was able to save $31,838. Oh, it's backwards, so that doesn't even help. But so that goes to show you, some people take all of their prerequisites at community college and then they only take their nursing classes at Chamberlain University. That is an option that I would strongly encourage people to do. I didn't do it because I was only able to take one class at a time at community college because I worked full time. And so for me, it was just taking forever and I just wanted to finish my nursing degree and get it over with. So at some point I got kind of impatient and I just went ahead and decided to finish my prerequisites in Chamberlain. It would have taken me at least twice as long to get my degree if I finished all of my credits at community college. But for those of you guys that want to do all of your prerequisites at community college, you'd be saving even more than I did. So you may be saving $40,000, $50,000, but it does make a significant difference if you take your prerequisites at community college. I just wanted to say that. So, oh, those are all of the fees. Okay, so here we go into how much I paid out of pocket. So we have charges. So for everything total, I was charged $68,530.22 for the entire program at Chamberlain. So that was for my classes, my clinicals, my uniforms, my textbooks, all of those random BS charges was basically $70,000. So how much I ended up paying out of pocket was $17,593.22. So we'll just round it up to $18,000. So like I said, I worked full time during the entire 3 years that I was at Chamberlain. And so every 2 months, I believe, I had tuition due for classes. And so I would pay a portion of that. And then the difference would come out of my borrowed money, my federal loans. So just really quickly, not what I did, but what a lot of my classmates did. A lot of people were like me. This was a second career for them. They had to pay for school themselves, like a lot of people in my cohort, and they were not able to work full-time during the program because it is really hard to work full-time and go to nursing school, and it's not for everybody. A lot of people cannot do it. So what people would do was they would take out federal loans to pay for most of the program, but you get maxed out. So even if you take out federal loans, there's still a portion of the program, like there's still money left over that you're responsible for paying. So since I was working full time and I had the ability to do it, I just paid that out of my own paycheck. I paid that out of pocket. People that did not have the money to pay it out of pocket, they took out additional loans. So they took out private loans in addition to their federal loans. So the federal loans paid for most of the program for those people, and then the private loans paid the difference. And I can't really speak to private loans because I've never taken out a private loan. I don't have, well, other than my mortgage, but I've never taken out private loans for student loans. My advice would be, if you do not absolutely have to take out student loans that are private, like unless you're in a position where you just have to take out private loans, do not take out private loans to pay for nursing school. Do not take out private loans to pay for school at all. Like I said, I'm not an expert on talking about loans, so I don't want to get too much into it. So federal loans are so much more flexible than private loans. I did not have to repay my loans during the whole pandemic, but I know that when the government, I don't know the term for it. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but pretty much when student loan repayment was frozen in the United States and people did not have to pay their student loans because there was the pandemic going on and it was a nationwide disaster pretty much, or if you lose your job and you're not able to pay back loans, and your loans are kind of able to be held for a little bit, you don't get a penalty if you're late at that period of time, or if whenever they talk about student loan forgiveness, the possibility of having your student loans forgiven, anytime that you hear any of those conversations being talked about, they're only talking about federal loans. So anytime that there's like oh, we're gonna forgive loans, that does not ever cover private loans. Anytime that the government says, oh, student loan repayment is frozen, if you don't make payments for 6 months, a year, there's no penalty. They're not talking about private loans. They're only talking about federal loans. Private loans are not forgiving. If you lose your job, if you have a tragedy, these are banks that you're working with. It's not the government. So even if you lose your job, no matter what's going on in the world, in the country, in your personal life, you are expected to pay back those loans. There's no loan forgiveness. There's nothing when it comes to private loans because you're working with a bank. So like I said, for those of you guys that have to take out private loans, I'm not trying to depress you. If you have to take out private loans, just figure out a repayment plan and make sure that you're making your payments so that you don't get hit with late fees and it does not affect your credit. But yeah, I don't want anybody to take out a private loan and not realize what they're getting into, because I learned a lot from going to nursing school and having to take out my own loans. I learned a lot the difference between federal loans and private loans, and the best advice that I got was don't take out private loans, even if I have to work full-time the entire time during nursing school. You guys have seen, I have a video where I was literally between school, work, and clinicals, my work week was like 92 hours. I was like killing myself, but I wouldn't take that back because now that I've graduated, I only have federal loans to pay back, and I'm so grateful. But anyway, back to the video and back to my finances. So I took out federal subsidized loans and federal unsubsidized loans for school. Like I said, I'm not an expert, so please do not ask me to explain the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized. I don't know, but my subsidized loans took care of $22,368 of my tuition. And then my unsubsidized federal loans took care of $28,474 of my tuition. So most of my tuition was paid by loans. And then that's basically $18,000 that I had paid out of pocket. That, like I said, came out of pocket. So I don't have to pay that back because that's money that I already paid to the school. Now that I'm done talking about my tuition at Chamberlain, how much I paid out of pocket, how much the entire program cost me, now I'm going to log into my federal loan account so you guys can see exactly how much I have to pay back in student loans and exactly how much my monthly repayment is. I just made my first ever loan repayment last month, December 2024, I made my very first loan repayment. Okay guys, so now we are in Nelnet, which is where my student loans are. I don't know what Nelnet is. I don't know, but I just know Nelnet is where I go to make my payments. So you can see here on the screen, it pretty much has everything. I'm not going to scroll down because that has more of my personal information on my profile, and I love you guys, but I'm not going to be showing you guys my personal information. But you can see the current balance. So my entire loan, all of my loans, the subsidized, unsubsidized, everything is here. So everything that I have to repay the government back for school is this number right here, the $52,636.43. So every 2 months my tuition at Chamberlain was due. And so the way that it would work was that I would get a bill. Like my bill, let's say, would be available for me to view on the 1st of the month. I would not have to make the payment until, let's just say, the 15th of the month. I'm just making up numbers. So on the 1st of the month, I would see that, let's just say that I had to pay $4,000 for my tuition for 2 months. And so on the 1st of the month, I would see $4,000 due. And then maybe like a week or two later, when I logged into my account for Chamberlain, I would see 2,500 of those dollars were paid off by the government. And so I was only responsible for paying the difference. So the 15th of the month, I would go in and I would pay $1,500. I believe that's the difference. So I was only responsible for paying my portion after my student loans kicked in. And so that's pretty much how it worked. So it wasn't like I just borrowed a lump sum of money at the beginning of my program. I had no access to that money. The government was paying Chamberlain directly. And then any difference that was left over, I had to pay that. So some people, like I said, used private loans to pay that. I was working full time, so I would just put that money from my personal account. I paid out of pocket. And so over time, that money equated to the $51,000. So at least with federal loans, with the loans that I took out, I think private loans are different. Like I said, it's a whole different thing. But with my loans, interest did not accrue when I was in school. With other loans, this is not the case. With other loans, during that 3 years, that interest would have been accruing. So by the time that you graduate, let's say that you took out a private loan where interest was accruing the whole time that you were in school, every month interest was being charged to your student loan account. So by the time that you graduated, maybe you only borrowed $50,000. So $50,000 went directly to Chamberlain. But because of the interest, by the time that you graduated, you are now responsible for paying $75,000 because you accrued maybe, let's say, $25,000 in interest. That is not the case for me. So the entire time that I was in school, no interest was accruing. So this $1,300 some odd dollars, all of that accrued since I graduated. So I graduated back in the spring. I believe I graduated back in May. So interest has not been accruing this whole time. It's just heavy interest. But all of that is to say, interest was not accruing while I was in school. And then apparently I had a grace period of like 6 to 8 months before interest started accruing. So now every month interest is going to accrue. So I'm going to end up paying probably significantly more than the $52,000 because of the interest. Yeah, so it shows here my monthly payment for my loans is but let's just say $545. So my monthly payment for my loans is $545. And then it breaks it down. So my loan, I just call it one big loan, but it's actually a bunch of little loans combined together. So I have one loan of like $4,400, one loan of like $6,000, one loan of $2,000 something dollars. I've talked to some friends and family, and apparently you can like call the government. I can call Nelnet or whoever, and I can see if I can get my loans consolidated. That way it's just one big loan. I would still have the same amount of principal to pay, but the benefit of that is that my interest rate would go down, like the cost of interest would go down. So I do plan to do that. I've just been super busy and had a lot going on, and I have not done it yet. Hopefully it's still an option with the new administration coming in. I'm not going to get political, but just with any administration, doesn't matter what their political affiliation is, like Democrat, Republican, whatever. Anytime a new administration comes in, there's always uncertainty. So I'm going to wait for the new administration and see what my options are. But there is a way to consolidate your loans, so that way my monthly payment would come down because the interest rate would come down. So that is what I plan to do. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my plan for repayment really quickly because I'm using natural sunlight and the sun is going down, but I did write notes on it, like I just made bullet points. So I do have a plan for repayment. And first off, I do want to say this, that I've said this before in other videos, nursing is a profession where you will always have a job. You may not have the job that you want. You may not have your first pick. Like let's say you want to go into critical care or you want to go into labor and delivery and you cannot find a job there. Even if you don't find a job with like your first choice, there is a national shortage of nurses, especially nurses at the bedside. You will always be employed as long as you show up to work on time and you don't cause trouble. You will always have a job. There's job security. So you'll always have an income. You always have a decent income. Nurses make a pretty good living. So you will always have a way to pay back your loans. I cannot say this for every major. You know, I'm not going to name drop any majors, but there are certain college majors where you go, you take out a $50,000 loan or a $100,000 loan, and then you graduate and you're not able to have a job and you're not able to repay that loan. Nursing is fortunately not one of those professions. So is $550 every month, like paying the government, is that ideal? No, but I will say, with the paycheck that I'm making as a nurse, even once I take out the $550 pretty much a month to pay back my student loans, my income, even minus that money, is more than I was making before I was a nurse. And I just started in the field, so I'm only going to be making more money. And my student loans, the monthly payment is either going to stay the same, or if I consolidate my loan, it's going to get lower. So in my opinion, it was more than worth it to go to school. It was more than worth it to take out this loan. So I'm very blessed and fortunate that I am able to pay this money back. And it's not something that I'm stressing about. It's more so annoying that Uncle Sam is getting a chunk of my paycheck, but it's not that big in the grand scheme of things per month. So now for my repayment plan, how I plan on repaying back this loan. So I did just make bullet pointed notes. So I am very blessed. If you guys watch my channel, you know I am a nurse resident, so I work full-time at the bedside in critical care. And even though I'm a nurse resident, I do get paid full-time. I'm a full-time employee. And I do plan on making a video how much that pays in case you guys are interested. But that is my primary job. I also have a PRN job, which is less than part-time. At the last job I had while I was in nursing school, when I put in my resignation, I requested to stay on PRN, which is whenever they need me, they can call me, and if I'm available, I can come in, I can work, and I will get paid to work. So for example, over the holiday season, I went in a few days, I did some work, I got paid for that. So technically I have 2 jobs because I work PRN there, and then YouTube, full transparency, I do get paid, not a lot, but I do get paid for YouTube and making videos. Like I said, I'm dual income, my household's dual income, my husband works full time, so he makes money. We own a rental property on the side, so that makes money. So I have a bunch of ways that I make money. So that is helping me repay back my student loans. And then in the future, once I get settled at the hospital, because I feel like I'm still learning how to be a nurse. I've only been in my nurse residency program for a few months, but once I get fully comfortable there and I start making my own schedule, because right now I'm still kind of on orientation, I don't get to make my schedule yet, but once I'm off orientation, I can make my schedule. Once that happens, once I feel more comfortable being a nurse, I do plan to apply to one of my previous jobs. I used to work there in healthcare administration. I do plan to apply there as a nurse and be PRN there and be able to pick up shifts there. So that will also be additional money. And if you're watching this video, that's always an option. If you're working at the bedside as a nurse, you'll only be working 3 days a week because that's a standard schedule, 3 days a week. So you can have 4 other days during the week to pick up jobs here and there. If you want to do home care, if you want to work in an office, if you want to do consulting, if you want to work in a nursing home, a rehab center, dialysis, healthcare clinic. Like I'm just name dropping a bunch of places nurses work. An urgent care, a doctor's office. You have the option to do that as a nurse because it's so awesome and it's so flexible. They have telehealth stuff you can do from home. So you could literally pick up a side job, only work there a couple days a month, and then that side job could pay for your entire student loan payment for the month. And then my husband and I are planning on, we're saving, by the grace of God, we'll be able to afford another home. We do want to get another rental property. And so even though the upfront cost for that will be money, because it'd be, us having to buy a new home, each month eventually we'd be making a return on our investment. So each month we'd be getting money from that rental property also, and then that could also go towards my loan repayment. So like I said, nursing is something where if you want to work, there's work for you. If you want to make money, there's good money to be made. If you want to make extra money, there's always money there. So you will always have a way to pay back your student loans. Merlot just came and told me that I've been sitting here talking too much. She's ready to play. She was taking a nap and she's ready to go. So I'm gonna head out. I feel like this video is probably really long already. Say hi, Merlot. Say hi. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. If you have any comments, please feel free to comment down below. Thank you guys for watching my video, and I will see you in my next one.